Hello, my name is Peter Hayter. I'm from the Two Score Theatre Company in Ludlow, Shropshire. What you're about to hear is a special one-off performance of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, adapted as a radio play by Giles Emerson and directed by Kim Begley and performed by the members of Two Score Theatre Company. This was a one-off performance attended by a full house in St Laurence's Church, which raised over £3,000 for the Motor Neurone Disease charity. What made the production and the experience extra special was that the lead actor, Steve Piper, who played Ebenezer Scrooge, had recently been diagnosed with motor neurone disease. We hope you enjoy the show, and please, if you feel so inclined, do give generously to the Motor Neurone Disease Association. Thank you.
This is the BBC Home Service. We present A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, dramatised for radio by Giles Emerson. It is Christmas Eve when our story begins, on a cold, damp, late afternoon in a less than salubrious part of the city, when old stone buildings, offices and warehouses gather like hags in the shadows, where there is little light and where cobbles loom in the dark. On the corner of an alleyway, a step rises to an office door, above which the words Scrooge and Marley are just legible on a wooden plaque. As we enter the building, we are quickly aware that the cold without is matched by the cold within, almost in equal parts. Bob Cratchit, the office clerk, is perched on a high stool copying letters. Close to him is a fire with the smallest possible flame, holding with difficulty to one piece of coal. It cannot be replenished because the coal box is out of bounds. In the background, a door leads to a small office, and there sits Ebenezer Scrooge, master of this enterprise, who is himself next to a fire which has more flame but still mean in size and warmth. This man Scrooge is a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching old sinner. He is hard as flint, secretive, doubting, and solitary as an oyster. There is a sharp knock on the office door, and a young, cheerful man bursts in.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you.
This is the voice of Scrooge's nephew.
What? Who? Bah! Humbug.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure.
I do. Merry Christmas? Bah! What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
But what reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
The world is full of fools. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
I can only think of Christmas as a good time, a kind, charitable and pleasant time. But don't be angry with me. Come and dine with us tomorrow, Uncle.
I'll see you in that place first. Good afternoon.
Well, I'll keep my humour and wish you a Merry Christmas. The invitation stands. Goodbye, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Merry Christmas to you, Bob Cratchit.
Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas, sir.
The nephew makes his way for two portly gentlemen, pleasant to behold, who enter the office and approach Mr. Scrooge with an air of expectation.
And what can I do for you?
Scrooge and Marley, I believe. Have we the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley's been dead 7 years ago this very night. What's your business?
We come in the fond hope that you can help with a little contribution for the poor and destitute who are much in need at this festive time of year.
Oh, are there no prisons?
There are plenty of prisons.
And are there no union workhouses? Are they not in operation? The treadmill and the poor law? Are they not in full vigour?
Oh, they are indeed, yes. but they scarcely furnish the needy with good Christian cheer, so we are raising funds to give people food, drink, and warmth. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing at all.
You wish to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. That is my answer. I don't make myself merry at Christmas, so why should I help the idle to do so?
You realize that many of the poor would rather be left to die than go to the workhouse.
Oh, if they would rather die, they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population. I have my own business which occupies me constantly and would leave people to themselves. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
And with that, the gentleman made a hasty departure.
Merry Christmas. Humbug. And I suppose you'll be wanting all day off.
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient and it's not fair. If I was to stop you half a crown for it, you'd think yourself abused. I'll be bound.
It is but once a year, Mr. Scrooge.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th day of December. Well, to make up for it, be sure to be here extra early the day after.
Soon enough, the candles are snuffed out, and the office is closed in a twinkling.
Good night, sir. Merry Christmas.
Puff! My clerk on 15 shillings a week with a wife and family and talking about Merry Christmas. It'll drive me to bedlam.
Merry Christmas, sir. God bless you, merry gentlemen. Let nothing you dismay. For Jesus Christ hath saved.
Humbug!
Oh.
Scrooge takes his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern. He reads the newspapers and scours his banker's book, then sets off home for bed. He lives up a yard in the property of his former partner, Marley, and the place is empty but for Scrooge's quarters, and is dark enough that even Scrooge has to grope his way past the old black gateway hung about with fog and frost. He fetches out his key and goes to unlock the door, whereupon he notices with grim surprise that the large door knocker has assumed the face of his partner, Marley. Unlike everything else in the yard, the face has a dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in a dark cellar. It is Marley's face, all right, with ghostly hair stirring on his ghostly forehead and motionless eyes wide open. It is a horrible, livid colour.
Balderdash. Humbug. Too much mustard.
Trying to dismiss the strange vision, Scrooge enters his dark house and goes gingerly up the stairs to check his rooms. Quite satisfied, he closes the door and locks himself in, double locked. He changes into his dressing gown, lights a meaningless fire, and proceeds to warm some gruel sitting next to the fireplace. Then in the gloom, he notices a bell on the other side of the room, twitching. It begins to swing slowly and then rings loudly, setting off other bells on other floors. They cease as quickly as they begin, but are followed by the sound of a crash as the cellar door flies open. And on the floors below, he hears the sound of footsteps approaching and a dragging chain.
What is this? Humbug. It's nothing. I won't believe it.
A figure, dragging this noisy chain, comes to the locked door of his room, pauses, and then passes straight through it. There before him is Marley. The same face, the very same. Marley with his pigtails and coattails, waistcoat, tights and boots, all bristling in the dying flame of the fire. He seems to have no actual body, because Scrooge can see straight through his abdomen to the button at the back of his coat. Yet he still refuses to believe his eyes. The chain he draws is long and wound about him like a tail. It is made of cash boxes, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses.
La, 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 la. Oh! And just what do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was. You surely know who I was in life. Your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down?
I can.
The ghost sits down in the armchair opposite Scrooge on the other side of the fireplace.
You don't believe in me?
I don't. I know you to be the product of poorly digested beef, an underdone potato, blot of mustard. There's more of gravy than the grave about you, whatever you are.
Marley unwraps the bandage round his head, and in doing so his jaw drops upon his breast. Scrooge falls to his knees and clasps his hands before his face.
Oh, mercy, terrible phantom! Why do you haunt me?
Worldly blinkered man, do you believe in me or not?
Whoa, I do. I must. But why do you spirits walk the earth? Why do you come to me?
Everyone must walk abroad among his fellow men, and if he does not do so in life, he is condemned to do so after death. And like me, he drags a chain, the chain made in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. Yours is already long, heavy and ponderous.
Jacob Marley, speak comfort to me. Tell me more.
I can tell you nothing. That's for other ministers. Except that I was good in business, charitable and kind, and yet still I have a chain and must journey across the world endlessly. I do not know how you can see me now, for I have sat beside you many a time in the office, and you had no idea I was there.
In my office? Actually in my office? I shiver at the thought of it.
I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance to avoid the path I trod. A chance and hope of my procuring, Ebenezer.
You were always a good friend to me. Thank you.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Is that the chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob?
It is.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you have no hope. Expect the first tomorrow night when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second on the next night, and the third the next, both at the stroke of 12. Look to see me no more. Farewell.
Marley's ghost stands up and takes a step towards the window, beckoning to Scrooge, who follows him warily. With every step the ghost takes, the window edges further open. Then the ghost raises his bony hand to stop Scrooge and indicates outside. In the darkness, Scrooge can make out numerous flying phantoms, mostly separate, but some linked together. They may be guilty governments. He even recognizes some individuals and then realizes they are lamenting and crying because they are all helpless, unable to interfere for the good of the poor people below. Marley's ghost disappears through the window to join his doomed companions. Exhausted and without undressing, Scrooge falls deeply asleep the instant he moves to his bed. Scrooge sleeps heavily and awakes in the pitch dark, hearing the clock strike 12. What was this? Had he slept through all the day and into the night? He pondered his meeting with Marley's ghost over and over, determined to stay awake until 1 o'clock, when another ghost is due. Then the clock strikes 4 quarters, and the bell tolls 1. The room is suddenly filled with light, and the curtains of his bed fly open. There before him stands an unearthly creature, something like a child, but also a diminished old man. Skin unwrinkled, long arms, white hair, a tunic of purest white, and a lustrous belt around his waist. Strangest of all, from the crown of its head is shining a bright, clear jet of light, and its body shimmers, sometimes clear and sometimes indistinct.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
Long past your past.
But what business brings you here?
Your welfare.
I'm obliged, I'm sure, but I feel a night of unbroken sleep would be more conducive to that end.
Your reclamation, then. Take heed, and now rise and walk with me.
Reluctantly, Scrooge rises from his bed and follows the ghost towards the opening window, but puts out a hand on the ghost's robe.
I can't go there, I'm mortal, I'll fall.
I will barely touch your heart with my hand, and you will be upheld.
As he speaks, they pass through the wall and are immediately in a country lane on a clear, cold, wintry day, with snow on the ground and fields either side of him.
Good heavens, I know this place. I was born here.
Scrooge is suddenly reminded of 1,000 sensations from his early childhood. Joy, hope, expectation, the desire to play, the smell of a country field.
You remember the way?
I could walk it blindfold.
Walking on, Scrooge sees boys playing in the field and others coming towards him on horseback. He realizes with real joy that he knows them, every one, and can name them as they pass. Eventually, they come upon a large mansion showing all the signs of decay and neglect. And walking in, the smell is of cold earth and mossy walls. Crossing into a back room, there is a number of desks and only one inhabitant, a lonely boy reading by a small fire.
I know him. I was him. Oh, but look there. What's this? I can see the very books I used to read endlessly. I see Ali Baba outside the window, and oh, look, the Sultan's groom turned upside down by the genie. And there's Friday running across the sand. Oh, and Crusoe too, and oh, how I wish.
You wish what?
There was a boy singing a carol outside my door last evening. I wish I'd given him something.
Let's see another Christmas.
And with that, the boy grows taller, and the room grows more dilapidated. No longer reading, the boy paces about despairingly. Then a girl enters the room and rushes to the boy, kissing him often and talking excitedly to him.
I've come to bring you home, dear brother, to bring you home.
Home?
Yes, home for good and all. Father's so much kinder now, and home's like heaven. He sent me in a coach to fetch you, to be together for Christmas. The merriest time in all the world.
My sister, little Fan.
A delicate creature indeed, who died young but had a child.
My nephew, yes.
The schoolroom disappears, and the ghost and Scrooge are now in a townscape, with carts and people around them, and all the shops alight at Christmas. Then they come to a warehouse.
Where I was apprenticed.
They enter, and see a convivial-looking man sitting at a tall desk so high that his Welsh wig nearly brushes the ceiling.
It's old Fezziwig, alive again, bless his heart.
Fezziwig looks up at the clock, which is pointing to the hour of 7, and puts down his pen. He rubs his hands together with glee and calls out, laughing,
Yo-ho there, Ebenezer! Dick!
In comes Ebenezer, now grown to a young man, with his fellow apprentice Dick.
Dick Wilkins. Yes, dear Dick. Very much attached to me he was. Oh, yes. Poor old Dick.
Yo-ho, boys! No more work tonight. Christmas Eve and off to celebrate. Let's have the shutters up before a man can say Jack Robinson.
You wouldn't believe how those two fellows went at it. The shutters done, everything cleared, the two apprentices running around like racehorses. In comes Mrs. Fezziwig and the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, plus 6 other followers whose hearts they had broken. Then, one by one from every corner, arrive all those men and women employed in the business. The fire is lit, and a fiddler with a music book strikes up. And so to dancing, one and all, some poised and graceful, some behind the beat, or well in front. They begin with a polonaise. Following this with a waltz. More dances follow, groups and rounds, and all the party have cake and negus, mince pies, and plenty of beer. Finally, Sir Roger de Coverley is played, and Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig dance beautifully and deftly. Eventually, at 11 o'clock, the domestic ball ends, and the Fezziwigs shake hands with every departing guest, and then wish Ebenezer and Wilkins a good night and a Merry Christmas. The young men retire to their beds, which are under the counter in the back shop. Scrooge, all the while, is completely shaken by the memory of the event, by the happiness and the movement.
I truly admit, I remember all of this, and it touches me to the core. Such times.
A small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude.
A small matter.
Mr. Fezziwig spends but a few of your mortal pounds, and the result is easy.
It is not a matter of money. It is that he had the power to make one's toil light or burdensome, and he made it light. He knew how to cheer and encourage and lift the spirits of his employees, and that was more generous indeed than money can be.
You look distracted. What is it?
Nothing.
There is something. What's the matter?
I see clearly now that Fezziwig's simple generosity gave us all a truly joyful time, as if they'd spent a fortune. I wish now I'd paid the same attention to my clerk Bob.
My time grows short. Quick!
And with that, the scene changes. Now, Scrooge is an adult in whose face we see the careworn signs of gain and avarice. At his side is a young woman with tears in her eyes.
Our contract is an old one, made when we were poor and expected to make our way patiently to improve our worldly fortune. Then I was your idol, but now I am replaced by another.
What idol has replaced you?
A golden one. I have seen your nobler qualities fall off one by one, leaving only the blind pursuit of gain.
What then if I am wiser? I am not changed toward you.
You are changed. When our contract was made, you were another man.
I was a boy.
What you were and what you are different beings. Once we were one heart, and now we are two. And I have lost the person you were, whose memory I love. If only you knew how often I have worried about saying this and pursuing this action, which is to release you. But you know as well as I that this is for the best.
You are releasing me?
Crying, the young woman leaves Scrooge standing alone.
Spirit, I beg you, show me no more. Torment me no more.
I insist you see just one more shadow, and you will.
The ghost, relentless, pinions him in both his arms and forces him to observe another vivid scene. We are in a different place. A handsome young woman is sitting in a chair in a pleasant room with a fire burning strongly in the grate. Scrooge gradually realizes this is the same woman as before, and then sees that she is surrounded by a number of children, running and tumbling, laughing and playing and hanging on their mother's arms, pulling on her dress and making the sounds of not 4 but 40 children. She laughs and plays with them. Scrooge stares on. Then her husband enters with an attendant carrying many parcels, and the children attack him, pulling at the promising packages, using chairs as ladders to despoil him of these treasures. Scrooge looks on, rapt by the prettiness of the eldest daughter, and realizes what he misses in the haggard wintertime of his life.
Belle, you'll never guess who I saw today.
Who was it?
I was passing the city when I could see your Mr. Scrooge, sitting next to a candle in his office. They say he is quite alone and his partner's at death's door.
Spirit, remove me, I cannot bear it. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
These are the shadows of things past. Do not lay the blame at my door.
Scrooge can see that the strange light that emanates from the ghost glows brighter, and he takes the odd little cap from under the ghost's arm and tries to force it over his luminous head. The ghost slumps to the ground, but the light shines from its new position as bright as ever. Scrooge barely has time to get into bed before a deep sleep overcomes him. When he awakes, Scrooge feels he's done so in the nick of time. He stares towards the window, expecting a twitching curtain and the visit of the second ghost, but he can make out little, such is the black darkness. Nevertheless, he is determined not to be surprised and roughly transported by another ghost. He is ready for everything or anything, but what he isn't expecting is deadly silence. Nothing at all. But the clock has struck 1, and many minutes have now passed in deadly silence, each one making him tremble more in apprehension. Then, walking to the door, he hears a voice.
Enter, Scrooge! Enter!
Suddenly he is surrounded by green. It is surely his own room, but decked in flora, wreathed in mistletoe, bright berries and holly, reflected as in so many little mirrors. On the floor are piles of turkeys, geese, game, brawn, joints of meat, suckling pigs, runs of sausages, luscious pears, juicy oranges. Sitting easy on this throne is a jolly giant who bears a glowing torch, not unlike Plenty's horn, which he holds aloft to shed light on Scrooge as he peeps round the door.
Come in! Come in and know me better, man!
Scrooge enters timidly. His head is hung low. He is no longer the resolute man he was known to be, and he all but shuffles nearer the spirit.
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me now!
Scrooge does so shyly, even though the spirit's eyes are welcoming and kind. It is clothed in one deep green mantle, bordered with white fur, covering, but not entirely concealing, a bare chest, bare feet, and on its head a wreath of holly. Its hair is dark brown and curly. Its face is free and genial. Its hands are open and its voice full of joy and cheer.
You have never seen the likes of me before.
Never.
And you've not encountered any of my brothers, the younger members of my family?
I have no memory of it. Do you have many brothers, sir?
More than 1,800.
Oh, a tremendous family to provide for. Spirit, if I may ask, last night I was compelled to go out and see things past in a different light. And doing so, I learned a lesson which is working for me now. If you have aught to teach me that I may profit by, please lead me on.
Touch my robe.
Scrooge does so and holds it tight, and immediately everything in the room, the lavish piles of Christmas fare, the mistletoe, the holly, and the ivy, vanishes. And Scrooge is suddenly in a cold but busy winter street on Christmas morning. The sky is overcast, but despite the weather, the mood is noisy and merry as the owners of the houses and shops make music as they scrape the snow from the pavements and sweep off a mass of powder from windowsills. Boys below yelp and laugh as drifts explode onto the street and into the ruts of yellowing mud cast deep by many carriages. The sweepers occasionally engage each other with loud greetings, and some gather handfuls of snow and throw snowballs playfully at their neighbours. In the shops, the poulterers, the fruiters, and the grocers too, everything is good to eat, and it is in its Christmas dress, enticing, voluptuously presented, so every passer-by passes by falteringly, with mouths watering and appetite thoroughly whetted. All senses are assailed. The blended scents of tea and coffee so grateful to the nose, the raisins so plentiful and rare, the almonds so extremely white, the sticks of cinnamon so long, and other spices too, the candied fruits so caked and spotted with molten sugar, the figs moist and pulpy, whilst the French plums blush in tartness from their highly decorated boxes. Now, church and chapel bells ring out, and soon people are coming, hurrying in their direction, dressed in their best clothes and smiling broadly. Then, from the shadows of dimmer alleyways and lanes, other people emerge carrying their Christmas dinners to the bakers' shops to warm in the ovens. The spirit who carries a torch sprinkles incense from it onto their dinners and a few drops of holy water onto squabblers, for it is a shame to squabble at Christmas.
What is it you're sprinkling from your torch?
It is incense. It is holy water. I am blessing the food.
Would it apply to any kind of dinner on this day?
To any kindly given. To a poor one most.
Oh, you're surely wrong to fob me off with the poor. For doing so, you forget they need money to work and live by, and need their Sundays off under established law.
I fob you with the poor?
You would deprive them of their means of dining every seventh day, often the only day on which they could be said to dine at all.
I would.
You seek to close these places on the seventh day. It comes to the same thing.
I seek?
Forgive me if I'm wrong. It has been done in your name, or at least that of your family.
There are some upon this earth of yours who lay claim to know us, and who do their deeds of passion, pride, ill will, hatred, envy, bigotry, and selfishness in our name, who are strange to us and all our kith and kin, as if they had never lived. Remember that, and charge their doings on themselves, not us.
Scrooge promises that he will, and they go on invisible, taking towards the suburbs. It is incidentally a remarkable quality of the ghost that he is able with supernatural ease to accommodate himself, despite his massive size, to any space whatsoever, be it a lofty hall or the inside of a baker's shop. It shows us a quality of grace in him, of generosity and heartfelt sympathy, that he guides them now to Bob Cratchit's house. On the threshold, he sprinkles holy water from his torch. Bob, who earns but 15 bob a week, is being blessed by the ghost of Christmas present. Then up rises Mrs. Cratchit, dressed poorly in a twice-turned gown, made good with ribbons for only sixpence. And Belinda, Cratchit's second daughter, also brave in ribbons. And now Master Peter Cratchit, plunging a fork into a saucepan of potatoes bubbling furiously on a livening fire. Peter, who wears a monstrous collar choking tight, lent for this one day by his father. Peter, who yearns to show his linen in the fashionable parks. Then, tearing in, two smaller Cratchits, girl and boy, who've smelt the goose they know to be theirs at the baker's. Shrieking with excitement, they dance around the table, luxuriating in thoughts of sage and onion.
Whatever has got your precious father then, and your brother Tiny Tim, and Martha weren't as late as this last Christmas?
Here's Martha, Mother.
Here's Martha, Mother.
Hurrah, there's such a goose, Martha.
Martha, eldest daughter, appears as her name is called.
Why, bless your heart alive, my dear. How late you are.
We'd a deal of work last night and had to finish up this morning.
Well, sit you down beside the fire and have a warm, bless you.
No, there's Father coming. Quick, hide, Martha, hide.
The door opens and in comes Bob Cratchit, his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, his limbs supported by a frame.
Why? Where's our Martha?
She's not coming.
Not coming? Not coming upon Christmas Eve?
I'm here, Father. Oh, Papa, here.
Ha ha, Martha mine. Merry Christmas.
Come and see the pudding, Tim. A singing in the copper fit to burst.
Oh, my dears, look at the two of you. And how did Tiny Tim behave?
As good as gold. And better. He gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much, and sometimes comes out with the strangest things. Coming home, he said he hoped that people saw him sitting in the church because he was a cripple. And it might be pleasant for them to remember on Christmas Day who made the lame walk and the blind see. But Tiny Tim is growing strong and hearty, mark my words.
Then back comes Tiny Tim, his crutch scraping the parlour floor, escorted by his brother and sister to his stool by the fire. Meanwhile, Bob compounds a hot mixture in a jug with gin, sugar and lemons and puts it on the hob to simmer. Master Peter and the two ubiquitous younger Cratchits go to fetch the goose, now cooked, from the baker's and return in high procession. Here the canvas opens in front of Scrooge, the lonely miser looking on with his huge supporting guide. What bustle in preparation follows, every Cratchit taking part, and Tiny Tim encouraging from his fireside seat. And what a feast ensues.
Now, do have another slice of goose.
Look at all this.
Can I have another potato,
Mrs. Cratchit, there never was such a goose cooked. Its tenderness and flavour, size and cheapness. I say, we all say yes to this.
Yes!
And gravy too. with apple sauce and mashed potatoes.
Hurrah! Hurrah!
My. They haven't ate it all either.
There's a great flurry of steam and a smell like washing day. The pudding is out of the copper. A smell like an eating house and a pastry cook's next door to each other and a laundress next door to that. In half a minute, Mrs. Cratchit enters, flushed but smiling proudly, with the pudding like a speckled cannonball, so hard and firm, blazing in half a quartern of ignited brandy, and bedight with Christmas holly stuck into the top.
And here's a bobbing pretty dame bringing the pudding in.
Oh, Bob.
My dearest wife, sweet mother of my children, bringing in the sweet to whet our appetite.
Oh, my, I hope it's done enough.
Children, what say you to a piece?
Me for
yes. Amazing. Oi, am I not a child? Well?
What a wonderful pudding. The greatest success achieved by you, my love, since our marriage.
Oh my, what a weight off my mind. I doubted the weights and the quantity of flour.
Everybody has something to say about it, but nobody says it is a small pudding. It would have been flat heresy to say so. At last, the dinner is all done. The cloth is cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. The compound in the jug being tasted and considered perfect, apples and oranges are put on the table and a shovel full of chestnuts on the fire. Then all the Cratchits draw round the fire in a circle, all dressed in scanty clothes with shoes that are far from waterproof, but they are happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and look contented with the time.
A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat by the fireside and a crutch in the poor chimney corner. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, kind spirit, say he will be spared.
What then?
If he be like to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Oh, man, if you be man at heart, forbear that wicked cant until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Oh, God, to hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on the too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust.
Mr. Scrooge. I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish he were here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon.
My dear, the children, it is Christmas Day.
Well, it should be Christmas Day, I'm sure, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, hard-feeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know that is the case, Robert.
My dear, Christmas Day.
Well, I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his. He'll have a Merry Christmas, I'm sure.
They drink the toast, and the children do too. But the name of Mr. Scrooge casts a dark shadow over the party,
Scrooge.
which is not dispelled for a full 5 minutes. When it does, they are merry again. They exchange stories and hopes and pass round the jug and chestnuts, and Tiny Tim sings a sweet song.
I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.
Even as they fade from Scrooge's view, he can see they are transformed by the sprinkling of the ghost's torch, and Scrooge's eyes are set fast on them, especially on Tiny Tim. The scene vanishes, And now the ghost and Scrooge move through the streets where snow falls heavily and all grows slowly dark. But everywhere are bright and roaring fires in kitchens and parlours. The flickering blaze shows rooms of warmth and busy preparation, and gradually the curtains draw when now there are shadows that reveal happy people greeting friends. And still they come, fur-booted, chattering and tripping lightly to some neighbour's house. The very lamplighter laughs loudly as he passes the spirit by, little knowing he had any company but Christmas. Of a sudden, and unwarned, Scrooge is on a bleak and deserted moor, where monstrous stones are cast about like a burial place for giants. The death of the setting sun makes it thick with gloom.
Ah! What is this place?
A place where miners live, where they toil in the bowels of the earth. But they know me, see.
Scrooge and the ghost pass through the walls of a wayside cottage on the moor, where an old man and his old wife sit attended by children and their children's children and more besides. An old Christmas song is sung by the oldest man who has known it from boyhood, although it scarcely sounds against the howling wind.
Eastern star now shining bright, bring us safe to harbour light, as you led the Magi three to greet the child on bended knee.
The children and some of the children's children join in as their tongues and memories allow.
Eastern star now shining bright, bring us safe to harbour light, as you led the Magi three to greet the child on bended knee.
We must not tarry. Now, hold fast to my robe.
Whither now? Where to, I say? Not surely to the sea? Oh, look now, the land passes and I see rocks below. Oh, my ears are deafened by this thunder. It rolls and rages all around. What now?
They stop at a seaweed-clad, embattled lighthouse, the one solitary flame in the murk of water where two rough keepers are warmed by a Christmas candle and a can of grog. Then through the fog they move again to a lonely ship and stand by the helmsman at his watch. And even in this vessel they catch the fleeting sound of Christmas song.
Holly and we are we, and when they are both full grown, of all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown.
The telling sound of bells, the home of heartfelt mariners remembering their distant loves.
Where now? What now? Oh, we're back on land. Thank God. Oh, I know this house.
And you may know it better as I find...
I recognise that laugh. It belongs to my nephew.
Scrooge and the spirit stand invisible near the company of friends surrounding Scrooge's nephew, who is laughing heartily.
No, I swear he said that Christmas is a humbug as I live. He believed it too.
It is a fair, even-handed, noble adjustment of things, that while there is infection of disease and sorrow, there is nothing so contagious as laughter and good humour.
More shame for him, Fred. Bless those women, they never do anything by halves. They are always in earnest.
The nephew's wife is pretty, exceedingly pretty, with dimpled cheeks and a ripe little mouth. What you might call provoking, but satisfactory too.
He's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and not so pleasant as he might be. But his offences carry their own punishment, and I shall say nothing against him.
He is very rich. At least you tell me so.
What of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He don't do any good with it. He don't make himself comfortable with it. And he hasn't the satisfaction of thinking he is ever going to benefit us with it.
Oh, I have no patience with him. No.
Well, I have. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. I'm sorry for him. Who suffers for his ill whims? Himself, always. Here he takes it into his head and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? He don't lose much of a dinner.
Oh, indeed. He loses a very good dinner.
Yes, a good dinner.
Topper, a friend of Fred's, appears to have his eyes on the sister of Scrooge's niece. Scrooge notices a blush on the plump girl's pretty face. From his torch, the spirit sprinkles incense on her bonnet, and she beams with happiness.
I was only going to say that the consequences of his taking a dislike to us and not making merry with us is, as I think, that he loses some pleasant moments which would do him no harm. And no matter the rebuff I get when I visit him annually to say Merry Christmas, I think and hope that my visits inch him upwards in his regard for humanity.
Which is nil and nothing.
Well, I admit it. But if it only put him in the vein to leave his poor clerk £50, that's something. And I think I shook him yesterday. After tea, they had some music, and Scrooge's accomplished niece played a little song at the piano that reminds Scrooge of the first night's visit from the ghost of Christmas past, when his sister Fan had been sent to fetch him home for Christmas.
Villagers all this frosty tide, let your doors swing open wide. The wind may follow and snow beside, yet draw us in by your fire to bide.
He knew she had loved this tune. Its lifting lyricism made him sad, and he wished that he had kept it in his heart for all those many years. Then, perhaps, he would have not missed out on the art of kindness, nor shunned all kindnesses from others. How many years were lost, captive to meanness.
Oh, they're playing forfeits and yet another game. It's blind man's buff. I can see my nephew's wife's sister, the plump one, being closely pursued by the large man. Topper, I think. Oh, there's no blindness in his fully fledged chasing an obvious choice.
You're right. Topper is keen and his blood is up. Wherever she goes, there goes he. The way he hunts the plump one is an outrage to the credulity of humanity.
Easy for you to say.
Well, what I know of humanity, which is much and much little, see how he's pressing her, no doubt with a ring for her finger, or for something sooner got. It is an outrage. It is
not to be outdone. You notice I also play, and I know the forfeit answers, even though we stand invisible among this warm-hearted group. Oh, but this is fun. I see you want to move on again, but I beg you stay a little more. 1/2 hour more.
1/2 hour more, then finish.
They're now playing yes and no, a popular game where someone thinks of something and the others guess what. But the person chosen can only give yes and no in the answer to the other's questions.
Scrooge's nephew is first to choose, and his subject is truly difficult. He is thinking of an animal, a live animal, a rather disagreeable animal. As it unfolds in a fling of questions, this is not an animal that lives in the market, but he does live in London, doesn't live in a menagerie, isn't a horse, an ass or a cow, nor a bull, a tiger, a dog, or a cat or a mouse. But then...
I have found it out! I know what it is. I have found it out.
What is it?
It is your Uncle Scrooge.
It most certainly is. Well done. I know we all, even me, might find him a touch touchy sometimes, but he's given us plenty of merriment today, and it would be ungrateful not to drink his health. So, here, let's raise our glasses of mulled wine and say, Uncle Scrooge!
Uncle Scrooge!
Uncle Scrooge has become so imperceptibly gay, light in heart that he could have raised a glass to the assembled company in turn. But the whole scene evaporates almost instantly with the nephew's last words, and he and the ghost are again on their travels. Much they see and far they travel, visiting homes all over and always with a happy ending. The spirit stands beside sick beds and they are cheerful, on foreign lands and they are close at home, by struggling men and they are patient in their greater hope, by poverty and it is rich.
Is this only one night? I am not changed in outward appearance, but you are older. I noticed when we left the children's 12th night party that your hair is grey.
We spirits' lives are short. Mine upon this globe is very brief. My time finishes tonight.
Tonight, at midnight. Hark, the bells ring and the chimes ring out for the third quarter after 11. Forgive me, but I see something strange not belonging to you, hidden beneath your robe. A foot or a claw.
Now, from the foldings of his robe, the spirit brought two children, a girl and a boy. The boy so yellow, meagre, ragged, the girl now prostrate with humility.
Oh, spirit, look down here. Are they yours?
No, they are man's. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both, particularly the boy who has doom inscribed on his forehead.
Have they no refuge or a source?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
The clock strikes 12, and Scrooge returns and sees where the ghost has gone, but finds he has completely disappeared. Now, almost accustomed to ghosts and their lively conjurings, Scrooge is left in a blanket of ever-thickening fog. Then gradually, he beholds a solemn hooded figure approaching. It seems to be hunched over. Its head, face, and form are concealed as it glides relentlessly towards him. Scrooge is filled with solemn dread. His mouth is dry. His knees tremble beneath him.
I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The spirit does not answer, but points out its outstretched hand.
You are about to show me shadows of things to come. Is that so, spirit?
The spirit seems to incline his head.
Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any spectre I've seen. But I know you mean to do me good. And as I intend to be a different man in future than I have been, I bid you lead me on. The night is waning and time is precious. Lead on.
The black spectre points an arm and moves away with Scrooge borne along as if on the shadow of his mantle. Suddenly they are in the city, and here and there, familiar in so many ways to Scrooge, are knots of businessmen talking intently and trifling with their gold seals. Scrooge draws close to listen to one group.
I know very little about it. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die.
God knows.
What's he done with his money?
No idea. Left it to his company, perhaps. He's not left it to me, that's for sure.
It is likely to be a very cheap funeral. For upon my life, I can't think of anyone who'll go to it. I suppose we'll make up a party and volunteer.
I'll go, if lunch is provided.
Why's the Phantom directing me to listen to these trivial conversations? And of whom are they speaking? Not of Jacob Marley, surely, because he was from the past.
Scrooge looks into the concourse of businessmen to see some image of himself, but finds no one like him, although there is someone standing in his accustomed corner. He notices the Phantom standing close, and it appears he is staring at him somehow through the blackness of his hood, and it chills him to the core. They travel to another area entirely, to dank, offensive-smelling alleyways, and to a lowbrow, beetling shop where old rags, iron, bottles, bones, and greasy offal are bought. On the floor are heaps of rusty keys, nails, chains, hinges, and refuse of every kind. A grey-haired, rascally man of 70 sits by a charcoal stove, smoking a pipe, as if in the luxury of retirement. Almost at the same time, there arrives in the shop a laundress carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth, then another woman, a housekeeper, with her bundle, and a man dressed in black with a third bundle.
Oh, well met. Ha ha. Who was to have thought it'd be all of us here at the same time?
Well met indeed, and all of the same business, I'll be yours truly.
Well, I suppose it's not surprising, really. Look, Joe, here's a few pieces that I doubt not are from the self-same place as the others.
Come one and all into my parlour, and I'll see what's what for you.
The parlour consists of a curtained area surrounding old Joe's stove. The undertaker puts his small bundle on the floor, disclosing a pair of sugar tongs, a box, a seal or two, a pencil case, some sleeve buttons, a cheapish brooch. Joe chalks up amounts he is proposing to give for each item on the wall.
There, that in total, and not another sixpence if I was boiled for not doing it. Who's next?
Come and look at this then.
Ah, now, what's here? What's this? A bed curtain with the rings attached? You took it off him right there when he was lying dead. And this? Blankets too. What a heavy-laden maiden.
Oh, well, he'll not be feeling the cold anymore as I see it, will he?
I hope he didn't die of anything catching, eh? And you'll be out to make a fortune, no doubt, pursuing such opportunities. Marvellous. Now, what's here? This shirt looks interesting.
Oh, you may look at that shirt till your eyes ache. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the finest of his shirts, and better out here than down there, so to speak.
They were going to bury him in it.
So they were, but I had a better idea where to make use of it. I took it off him and found another, some bit of calico. He can't look uglier than he did in that one.
Old Joe fetched a flannel bag with coins and dealt the women with their due amount.
I always give too much to the ladies. It's a weakness of mine.
Ha ha! This is the end of it, you see. He frightened everyone off when he was alive to profit us when he was dead.
Scrooge is filled with horror, and now the scene changes to the darkness of a bedroom and a bare, uncurtained bed on which something is covered up beneath a ragged sheet. The Phantom points towards the head, but Scrooge dares not turn to view it.
Please, Spirit, this is too bleak and dire. I see it now. This body could be me. How vile, low, rotted, and alone a death is this? There's no man, no woman, no child left here to say, he was kind to me, and for the memory of one kind word, I will be kind to him.
Still the phantom stood, pointing to the head of the corpse.
Spirit, this is a fearful place. In leaving it, I shall not leave its lesson, but I have not the power to look upon this head. If there's any person in this town who feels emotion caused by this man's death, show that person to me, I beseech you.
The phantom spreads his dark robe before him, and in an instant they are transported to a room where a woman sits anxious and fretful as her children play. She is expecting someone. The door opens, and her young but careworn husband enters.
Is it good or bad?
Bad?
Are we completely ruined?
No, there may be hope.
If he relents and gives us more time, there will be hope.
He's past relenting. He is dead.
No. But what of the debt?
It would be bad fortune indeed to find so merciless a creditor in his successor. Tonight, my love, we should sleep with lighter hearts.
The man and his wife, and the children too, little though they comprehended what was being said, feel lighter and happier. And so the only emotion that the spirit can show Scrooge at the death of this man is pleasure.
Let me see some tenderness connected with the death, or I'll be forever tormented by the dark and abandoned chamber we've just left.
So, come with me. See here. You know these streets, and this house in particular.
Cratchit's house, yes. But it's so gloomy. Here's Mrs. Cratchit sewing, and the children sitting by the fire, but so quiet. There's Master Peter standing reading a book, and the others looking up to him, but he's saying little or nothing.
And he took a child and set him in the midst of them.
When had Scrooge heard these words before?
The colour hurts my eyes so. Oh, poor Tiny Tim. But Father should be back soon, I think.
Or not soon. I've noticed he walks slower these past few days.
I've seen him walk faster many a time with Tiny Tim upon his back.
And I have too.
And I.
And I too.
But he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so that it was no trouble at all.
At which point, Bob Cratchit arrives home and enters the room, whereupon the children go to greet him and bring him to a chair and sit on his lap, pressing their faces against him.
You're home, Father. Sit down.
Don't mind it, Father. Don't be grieved.
I went today, my dear. I wish you could have come. It is a fine green place, and we will visit it often. I promised him that I would walk there on Sunday. My little child.
Although trying to hold himself cheerful in front of the children, Bob Cratchit breaks down in tears and then, as quickly, pulls his head up and smiles.
Scrooge's nephew has been so kind, so very kind. He asked after my family, one and all, and my good wife. How did he know?
Know what?
That I had a good wife. I am heartily sorry for your good wife, he said. If I can be of service to you in any way. He was really kind, and it warmed me. He seemed to have known our Tiny Tim and felt with us.
I'm sure he's a good soul.
We shall never forget poor Tiny Tim, or this first parting that there was among us.
No, never, Father.
All the children kiss their father. Mrs. Cratchit kisses him, while Peter shakes hands. Scrooge turns to the spirit.
I sense the time is near that we must part. Please tell me what man that was who we saw lying dead.
But the spirit hurries him on through a helter-skelter of visions, all sometime in the future, but none answering Scrooge's question. Then Scrooge seeks again to slow him.
Well, this court through which we hurry is where I work, my place of occupation. I see the house. Let us stop and see what becomes of me in the future.
The spirit stops briefly but points in another direction. Scrooge goes to the window of his office and looks in. It is still an office, but not his furniture. He turns reluctantly and follows the spirit, who now moves to an iron gate. Scrooge approaches and sees it is a graveyard choked with weeds.
Is this where the man is buried? Please tell me.
The spirit moves to a particularly dense patch of undergrowth and points downwards.
I wish to know, are these the shadows of things that will be or things that may be?
The spirit stays firmly in position, pointing down. Scrooge creeps up beside him and looks down to see the nameplate on the grave, clearly spelling out the name Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ah! Am I that man who lay upon the bed?
The spirit points from him to the grave and back to him again.
Oh, no, 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 good spirit. I know your nature pities me. Assure me I may yet change these shadows you've shown me by an altered life. I will not shut out the lessons they teach. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. The spirits of past, present and future shall strive within me.
In frantic entreaty, Scrooge grabs the spectre's hand and holds it in a grip that is eventually repulsed. At the same time, the hood and face of the ghost shrink, collapse, and dwindle down into a bedpost.
My bedpost. My bed. Oh, a new day. Oh, I will live in the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, and I will straightway make amends. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, oh Jacob, on my knees.
Scrooge takes hold of the curtains, which are still in place around the bed.
They're not torn down. They're here. I am here. The shadows of things that would be have been dispelled and will be. I know they will be. Oh, but this is marvellous. Well, I'm light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel, merry as a schoolboy, and giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody.
As Scrooge rises from his bed, there is a knock on the door, and in comes Mrs. Dilbar, Scrooge's housekeeper.
Oh, Mr. Scrooge, I thought you might be up already.
Ho-ho, Mrs. Dilbar, such a fine housekeeper. Ho-ho-ho-ho.
In a clear state of excitement, Scrooge dances across the room and takes Mrs. Dilbar in a frantically paced waltz around the bedroom floor.
Mr. Scrooge.
He whirls her and twirls her around the room and then starts to laugh, a new and brilliant laugh, the father of a long line of laughs. Really, for a man who was so out of practice, it was a splendid laugh, an illustrious laugh. Mrs. Dilbar, meanwhile, takes breath, looking on Mr. Scrooge in astonishment.
Oh my, Mr. Scrooge!
She leaves the room smiling broadly. Scrooge seems to have found a laugh that won't easily be stopped. He turns to his wardrobe and attempts to dress inside out, back to front.
Ha-ha! There's the pot the gruel was in. There's the window through which we watch so many phantoms flying past. All's here. The ghosts have been, and I'm through it, and I feel like a baby. Well, I know not even what day of the month it is.
He is checked in his transports by the mighty peal of church bells, clashing and donging, hammering and tinging. Scrooge runs to the window and looks out onto a fresh, cold, bright, heavenly day.
Hello! Hello there! What's today?
Eh?
You, my fine fellow, you! What day is it today?
Today? Why, sir, it's Christmas Day.
Indeed. So I haven't lost 3 nights but 1. Well, the spirits can do what they like, of course they can. Aha, you again, my fine fellow.
Yes, sir.
Do you know the poulterers at the next street but 1, at the corner?
I should hope I did.
Oh, an intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one.
What? The one as big as me?
Oh, a delightful boy. What a pleasure it is to talk to him. Yes, my buck.
It's hanging there now.
Well, go and buy it and come back with the man and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with it in under 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown.
The boy shoots off like a cannonball.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit. He'll not know who sends it. Oh, such a fine thing. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
The hand in which he writes the address is not a steady one, but write it he does, and then goes downstairs to meet the poulterer's man. As he opens the front door, he strokes the knocker, on the face of which the ghost of Marley had so recently loomed.
Oh, it's a wonderful knocker. I shall love it as long as I live. Aha! Hello, here's the turkey. Hello, how are you? And a Merry Christmas. Why, it's impossible to carry such a bird to Camden Town. Oh, you must have a cab. Here's the address, and here's for you, boy. Oh,
Thank you kindly, sir.
And here's for the turkey. Thank you, thank you. Oh, and here's for the cab to Camden Town.
Oh, thank you, sir.
The chuckles with which he recompenses the boy and the poulterer's man alike are only exceeded when he sits down breathless and chuckles until he cries. Then, in a state of excitement, he shaves with difficulty and proceeds to dress again in his finest outfit. Then he walks outside and joins a gathering throng of people and smiles delightedly at everyone, such that he is greeted by strangers a number of times, saying, "Merry Christmas." After which he sees a certain portly gentleman and makes straight towards him.
Ah, sir, excuse me. I wanted to thank you for visiting us yesterday, and I hope you had some success.
Mr. Scrooge?
The same. Allow me to ask your pardon, and will you have the goodness to accept what I have to offer?
At this, Scrooge whispers in the man's ear, whereupon he jolts upright.
Truly? That much?
Indeed, indeed. Not a farthing less. And a great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. So please, do come and see me soon. You will?
I will indeed. Thank you.
Thank ye. I am much obliged to you. Thank ye 50 times, bless you.
Scrooge walks to the church, and on his way he engages beggars and looks up at windows, conversing with all and sundry. And in everything he does and sees, he never felt so happy in his whole life. At length he goes towards his nephew's house, passing the door a dozen times before summoning the courage to knock, and a maid answers the door presently.
Is your master at home, my dear?
Indeed, sir.
Thank you.
He's upstairs, sir, in the dining room with the mistress. I'll show you up if you please.
They climb the stairs to the dining room door. Scrooge opens it himself and peers nervously into the room.
Fred? Fred?
Oh, good heavens! Who's here?
'Tis I, your Uncle Scrooge.
Oh, good heavens!
I've come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred?
Let you in? Good Lord above, how properly wonderful! You're most welcome indeed.
Oh, you're
Come in,
welcome.
Mr. Scrooge.
Indeed, they have all welcomed him before they sit down to eat well and talk and laugh. It is a wonderful party, with wonderful intimacy, wonderful games and wonderful happiness. Thus Scrooge is made thoroughly at home, and he was happier than he felt it possible to be. The next morning, he is early in the office in the hope of catching Bob Cratchit arriving late. And so he is, a full 18 minutes late.
So, Cratchit, what do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I'm a bit behind the time.
You are. Step this way, if you please, Bob Cratchit.
It is only once a year. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday.
Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I am not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am about to raise your salary.
But, sir, raise my salary? Are you feeling quite all right, sir?
The first it has been raised in many a year, so we will make it a good one. A Merry Christmas to you, Bob. And this very afternoon we will settle down over a bowl of Christmas punch and talk about how I can help your struggling family. Now, Bob Cratchit, make up the fires, buy another coal scuttle, before you dot another I.
Scrooge is better than his word. He does it all. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he is a second father. He becomes as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew. Some people laughed to see the change in him, but he let them laugh. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. Forever afterwards it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, every one.
God bless you, merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. For Jesus Christ our Saviour was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
If I could just say a quick few words, I'd like, when I did the Old Dick back in the summer, I thought that might be my swan song as I came on with the Zimmer frame and now sort of migrated to the wheelchair. But Kim kindly came up and suggested the show tonight, and I'm very grateful to Kim for that, and also Giles for obviously writing the script. So it's given me another opportunity to come and inflict myself on the Ludlow public at least one more time. And I'll warn you, I have banked my voice, so if the voice goes in the future, you'll be subjected to a sort of robotic voice at some point. But thank you very much for coming. And thank you for coming tonight and supporting, which is obviously a cause which is very close to my heart, and also my arms and legs as well. So thank you, and I do appreciate it. Thanks.